Hey, how's it going, everybody? I wanted to go ahead and talk about this because I haven't made a video like this in quite a while, like a few months. And I feel as though I have a different perspective than a lot of people. Here's some comments on NASCAR and NBC's Facebook page. You can see how people are split down the middle. Not only that, but some of them are just completely wrong, and it's kind of wild how ridiculous people are in a sense, but I digress. Let's go ahead and try to move past that as much as we can, because the casual fans are always kind of ridiculous, but I thought that this was pertinent what I have to say. So let's go ahead and talk about Joey Logano versus Martin Truex Jr. at Martinsville. I'm going to start with what happened. I think it was 30, 40 laps to go. There was a caution. I thought Joey Logano had lost that race because Brad just decided, like, fuck my teammate. I'm just going to go and race him really hard and try to pass him and try to win the race, because Brad has never won at Martinsville, and that's, like, a big race that he would want to win. Plus, he had just gotten knocked out, so if you win the Martinsville race, it's kind of like a, look, if I would have made the next round, you guys would be in some serious fucking trouble. And I think that was like, he was trying to make a statement more than anything, which I understand it now, but when I was watching the race, I was pretty pissed off, considering he was out and Joey was trying to not only lock himself into the next round, but lock himself into the next round in the most important race of that round. So in hindsight, I understand it a lot more why Brad was racing Joey the way he was. But at the time, I was very upset about it, because I am a Joey Logano fan. And listen, I'm trying to be unbiased as humanly possible when I'm talking about this situation, because I have a lot of things to say about Martin Truex Jr., and not a lot of them are complimentary, but there are a few that are complimentary. So when we get into that, you'll understand, I would hope, because I'm gonna try to explain it as much as I can without trying to offend somebody super badly. So, but anyway, Joey Logano had a great pit stop. His crew was on top of it all day long with those pit stops. They did a great job, and he got back out in front because of that pit stop. So he was in front of Brad, and Joey drove away for a few laps because Brad and Truex and Kyle Busch were racing pretty hard for second and third and fourth. But I digress. Let's go ahead and try to skip forward as much as we can. Brad catches up to Joey. He's not able to pass him. Joey was doing exactly what you need to do when your car is slower and you're in the lead. Just park the fucking bus. And that's exactly what he did. He parked the bus. He made sure that it was going to be extremely difficult for the people behind him to pass him. He set up that race as, you have to move me. And that's how you should race that racetrack when you're slower. If you're in front of somebody and you know that you're slower, you have to put them in that position. You have to put them in that position, especially at a short track. So he did it perfectly. Brad wasn't able to pass him. Truex ended up passing Brad Keselowski very clean. And then with like 7 to go, Truex is chasing down Logano. He finally gets there. And then they have their battle for, until the last lap and everything. And I'm going to say this. I'm going to preface this by saying Martin Truex Jr. needs to get more aggressive. You need to be more aggressive. I don't understand why, when you're in that position, you don't race aggressively, like move him out of the way, because that's exactly what he should have done the second that he got to Joey Logano. He should have tried to, number one, hit him out of the way, or number two, run him up the racetrack. That's all he had to do, and he would have won that race, because Joey was not fast enough to stay with him behind him. He was slow. He was not the fastest car on that final run, the final 2 runs that they had. He was slow, and he did a great job by staying in front of cars that were faster than him by just running his lane and doing what he had to do, but in reality, he shouldn't have won that race, and they should have moved him. I was saying it when I was watching it with people. Maybe Monkey Ball 480 will upload those reactions. I have no idea, but hopefully when he does, he'll keep in what I said, which was basically, I think Kyle Busch was trying to pass Joey Logano with like 70, 80 to go, and I was like, man, he has to move him out of the way to be able to go and try to fight to win this race. Like, he has to move him, because Joey was giving them no option, really. The only option he gave them was either move him or run him up the track. That's it. And none of them were doing it. None of them tried to move him out of the way. Kyle Busch attempted to pass him clean. He couldn't do it. He burned up his tires. He let Denny Hamlin go. Denny Hamlin tried to go and move Joey and try to pass him, and he couldn't do it. So then that caution came out, and then now we're back to the Martin Truex bit. Truex has to get more aggressive. He's got no backbone, man. Like, I don't particularly like Truex, mostly because he's got that weird Toyota complex now where he thinks that everybody is against him and that, you know, nobody races him fairly and et cetera, which there may be some truth to that, but he's starting to get into that, like, for real crybaby mode. It is a crybaby mode. And I don't know what it is about drivers when they move over to Toyota and they start crying, but they really do, and that makes me sound like a 45-year-old NASCAR fan, but I swear to God it's true, and when people bring up the crybaby complex for Joe Gibbs racing drivers, it's real. It is real. There's no two ways about it. Like, sometimes when they're being crybabies, they deserve to be upset about what they're talking about, but in this certain instance, you can't really be upset, Martin Truex Jr. You should have moved him. And this is coming from an avid Joey Logano fan. I defend Joey Logano to the grave. Most of the time, I don't defend him when I know that he's wrong, but when he's right, I'll defend him until you hate me for doing it. And ask anybody that I fucking know. It's the truth. I will defend him. So it's like, when I'm saying in this circumstance that he should have moved him, he should have fucking moved him. He shouldn't have raced him clean. He shouldn't have done any of that, because Joey wouldn't have been able to get back to him. He was too slow. He did not have the fastest car there. Truex and Brad had the fastest cars on the racetrack at the time. So they both should have moved him. Brad should have moved his teammate, but he thought about it and was like, no, that's my teammate, and he's trying to, you know, lock himself in and all that, so he didn't do that. But Truex has no affiliation to Joey Logano, and in fact, he doesn't fucking like him, and neither does his crew chief. So, you know, move him out of the fucking way, but he didn't do it. He raced him, you know, he raced him as clean as he could. And all credit to you, man. Like, if you know that you can pass somebody clean and that it's going to be fair for them and it's fair for you, congratulations. You are a part of the many few that do that. However, when you get into this situation where that is the most important race of the season, there's no more important race than Martinsville. The way that they have it set up, that race being the first race of that round, it gives you so much breathing room and so much time to be able to get ready for Homestead, to be able to dick with your chassis, to try to find more motor, to try to find more handling, traction, whatever you need to be able to go into Homestead. That is the race that you want to win, to be able to not only breathe, but dick around. Like, Texas becomes the second most important race. Obviously, Phoenix is important because you can lock yourself in, but, you know, you're struggling for the 2 weeks before that if you haven't won a race. So when you go into Phoenix, it's full-on desperation. But Martinsville is the most important race of the entire season. So, and considering the position that Martin Truex Jr. is in and Furniture Row Racing is in, I cannot believe that he didn't just move him the fuck out of the way. I just can't believe it. You're too nice. You're too nice. You need to start actually doing your fucking job because you failed at your job. And that's the bottom line of it. You failed at your job. You were moral and you did what you thought was your job, but I can tell you right now, you didn't do your fucking job. And you know what? I would be pretty upset if I were on his team and he didn't move him out of the way. And I would tell him at the end of the race, I don't give a fuck. If I'm some tire changer, I would tell him, like, dude, you should have fucking moved him. You know, like, I don't understand why you didn't, but that was a real big fucking mistake. And that's what this conversation should be about. It shouldn't be about, is Joey Logano an asshole and Martin Truex is right? It's like, no. The conversation should be, why is he such... why doesn't he have a backbone? I don't understand. You've been in the sport for God knows how fucking long now. Like, since the 1990s, like 1998, 1999... Like, he's been racing a really long time. He knows what the fucking deal is. He has a championship in the Cup Series. He knows what his job is, and he failed at his job. And that's the bottom line of it. That's as much as I'll fucking say there, but he needs to get a backbone. But this is more or less directed towards the fans of NASCAR at this point because, I've said what I've needed to say about Martin Truex Jr., and I'm sure people will hate me for it, but it's true, and you know that I'm right. He failed at his job, but to the fans that were sitting there saying that it wasn't fair the way that Truex was raced, or it wasn't fair, that Joey ended up winning that race. Fuck fair. You have to understand, man, it's a fucking job. And your job is to go out and win that race when you want to get into that next round. Joey Logano did his job. That's your job. And that's what that sport has been built on for fucking 70 years. Is, going out there and moving somebody the fuck out of the way to be able to win the race. That's your job, and Joey Logano did his job. Credit to Truex. I mean, he tried to move him. He hit him with like 3 to go in 1 and 2, and it didn't work. He didn't hit him hard enough. He didn't move him out of the way. He attempted to race hard, but he did it clean. Fuck being clean, man. This sport, the way that it is set up right now, it does not benefit clean race car drivers. It just fucking doesn't. Look at how Kevin Harvick moved Kyle Busch earlier this year at New Hampshire to go and win that race. He moved him. Like, that was classic. The way that he did it, he got up to him, hit him a couple of times, said, hey man, I'm going to fucking do it harder next time. You better watch out. And he went and fucking did it. And Kyle was upset about it at the end of the race, and that's fine. You're allowed to be upset. I'm not mad at Martin Truex Jr. for him being upset. But he acted like he didn't think it was going to happen. He acted like, he acted like it was the worst thing that anybody's ever done. He called it a cheap shot. The fuck, man? You've been racing in the Cup Series for like 15, 16 years. How is that a cheap shot? That's not a cheap shot, kid. You need to grow up. Because that's not a cheap shot. That's doing your fucking job. And to the fans that were sitting there saying, that's not fair, you're stupid. You only care that it wasn't fair because it wasn't the driver that you like that did it. That's completely it. If you hate Joey Logano, that's fine. You can hate any driver you want. You can be completely impartial to any driver you want. See if I give a shit. Certain people will, but I don't. I would have been fine either way, whoever won that race. I really would have. Because Joey Logano's been driving great this year. He hasn't been incredible, but he's been consistent. He's won 2 races. He's doing his job. Martin Truex Jr., he's won multiple races, doing his job, but failed that night. He did. It was a failure. And he'll learn now, but here's the one last thing that I want to say about Martin Truex Jr. is that you're allowed to be upset, but start saying to your team for them to calm the fuck down. Because when I saw what Cole Pearn was doing to Todd Gordon, both of the crew chiefs between both crew chiefs, the crew chief of the 22 and the crew chief of the 78. Cole Pearn is the crew chief of the 78, in case you weren't aware. Todd Gordon is the crew chief of the 22. Cole Pearn got off the box and started screaming at Todd Gordon about God knows fucking what. I don't know what the fuck Todd Gordon has to do with anything of what happened on the fucking track, but that guy needs to chill the fuck out. I understand that you're passionate, but don't go start screaming at somebody else's fucking crew chief about something when they have nothing to do with who's driving the car. You know, they have nothing to do with it other than making the car fast. They have nothing to do with the decisions that are made on track. You're just mad. You're mad, and I get it. But that was fucking stupid. And then when I heard the Cole Pearn interview where he was sitting there saying, you know, good thing I didn't have a baseball bat or something, like, why would you go and beat up his crew chief? If you really want to go out there and act like you've got some fucking balls, go over there and try to beat up the fucking driver. See what that gets you. You'll get fucking suspended. You'll probably get indefinitely suspended. Because that's a line that you shouldn't cross, and I feel like that's a line that you shouldn't cross with somebody else's crew chief. If Todd Gordon would have said something to Cole Pearn first, like, bitch, gotcha, then yeah, go for him. But that's not what happened. Martin Truex Jr. needs to try to talk to his crew chief and be like, bitch, you need to settle the fuck down, because that's what I would do. I'd be like, don't get into that shit. Don't be screaming at somebody else's crew chief. It makes you look stupid. If I'm being honest, the way that I would describe how Martin Truex Jr. and Cole Pearn and the 78 team handled themselves during that situation, Martin Truex Jr. calling it a cheap shot, and, you know, Cole Pearn sitting there saying, if I had a baseball bat, I would have beat somebody up. Like, dude, shut the fuck up. Y'all are being battered housewives. You know what you need to do? You need to go out there and make a fucking statement. You need to make a statement, not go there and sit and yap in front of the fucking press. You need to go out there and go win a fucking race so people won't end up fucking hating you for it. Because I can tell you right now, it's split 50-50. There are people that hate you now, and there are people that love you now. And good for you. You got people that love you, but the hate will come more than the love. I can promise you that. I can promise you that. Like, the amount of people that I've sat there and seen that were like, Martin Truex Jr. acted like a complete pussy, you would be surprised. I think you would be very surprised. There were a lot of people that sat there and were like, what the fuck? Like, why is he acting like a baby? That was classic short track racing. He didn't like that he was on the bunt end of it, and I can understand that. But, you know, when you go so far as to say, you know, it was a cheap shot, really? I mean, y'all were racing hard. I remember you hitting Joey. I remember y'all bumping on the straightaways, hitting each other in the doors and shit. I remember that. What was different about you getting moved in the final corner at a short track on the most important race of the season? What was different than any other battle that's happened this year where somebody got moved? You didn't see the 18 and the 42 at Chicagoland bitching and moaning at each other. You didn't see that, because guess what? They understand what their fucking job is. You don't understand what your job is right now. Your job is to go out there and perform for your fucking team. You should have moved him. It's on you, and you can't expect somebody to race you the exact way that you race other people. It's not going to happen. You should have known the second that he got behind you. You should have braced for impact on turn 3. If anything, he should have run the outside of the fucking corner. Give him a lane. If you're that clean, give him a lane. You shut the door at a fucking short track with half a corner to go, and you expect it to not get hit. That's your problem. You don't know what sport you're fucking in right now. You're not in fucking football. You're not in baseball. You just got outplayed. You got outplayed and you got outmaneuvered and you lost. It was a failure on your part. Grow the fuck up, accept that in your head that you weren't cheap-shotted, and go into Homestead and beat the motherfucker. Because, like, at this point, I don't even care who wins the championship. Of course, in my mind, I would rather Joey Logano. But that's a long shot, considering how they've raced most of the season. Big long shot. But if Martin Truex gets put in a position, again, where he has to move somebody out of the way, he better do it, man. Especially for that team. If you go into Homestead and you're right behind Joey Logano with a lap to go, and you can get to his bumper, I don't even give a fuck if you wreck him. Move him. Go win it for your fucking team, because it is sad what's happening to the 78 team. They deserve another championship. They deserve to put that bullet point at the end of that fucking team's career, because they're shutting down, and it's sad, and it's bullshit. Go make a statement, man. Don't yap. Yapping does nothing. It only makes you look like a bitch, because right now, if I'm being honest, Martin Truex Jr. acted like a bitch. Don't be a bitch. Go out there and win the fucking races. Go out there and do what you have to do to win the fucking races. Who cares if those people that you're racing with out on the racetrack don't fucking like you? Guess what? That's what happens at Penske. They don't give a fuck that people don't like them. They go out there and do their fucking job. Do your job.